Now to the sleepy rural town on the Darling Downs, where a David and Goliath battle is brewing. It's the story of an Australian defence base, toxic firefighting chemicals, and the residents who now face an uncertain future as contaminated water leaches onto their land and into their lives. This is a crisis that's dividing a community. Lachlan Kennedy is in Oakey for a series of special reports for 10 Eyewitness News. And Lachlan, a new assessment from Defence has upset a lot of people.
Georgie, this is it. 2,200 pages, the latest human health risk assessment, and residents had no more than 24 hours to read this document before a sit-down and Q&A with its authors and with Defence officials. Now they've had a week to go through it. I can tell you they are furious. It's been discovered that a lot of the assessments and conclusions made in this report use data and safety levels from 2008, safety levels that are currently under review and safety levels that have been usurped by other countries around the world. On top of that, it appears to take a bet each way. It says in terms of the current and future risk for human health in this area, there is a low and acceptable risk. But it also warns residents not to drink the bore water and not to bathe in it either.
His blood has been poisoned. His land sits in a contaminated corridor, and just last week, Darby Tunner's doctor gave him more bad news.
I had bowel cancer and, it's got to be operated on.
Having already battled cancer before and losing his brother and sister to organ failure, the 64-year-old can't help but wonder if the bore water on their property is to blame.
First prostate cancer, now this. You wouldn't think you'd get two whammies in one hit, in a short period of time.
Do you have a history of cancer in your family?
No, we don't.
The family farm is a kilometre from the Oakey Army Aviation Centre. Defence has confirmed chemicals from a firefighting foam used on the base for 30 years have leached into surrounding soil and groundwater. Of particular concern are perfluorooctane sulfonate, PFOS, and perfluorooctanoic acid, PFOA.
Why in 2016 do I have to accept that? I don't. And I won't.
Cattle stud breeder Diane Priddle loves Oakey, but her fight for the truth has seen her ostracised by some in the town who believe it's giving Oakey a bad name.
Defence have done this, not me, Defence.
Nearly 3 years after they were first told, many residents in the contamination zone believe Defence cares more about limiting its liability than fairly compensating people. A human health risk assessment released last week adopts ageing 8-year-old European safety standards that will likely be updated next year, ignoring much tougher American standards that were finalised in May.
When we first got given data, it was based on the United States. So why now is the United States not good enough?
That same European standard has been widely criticised by its own authors because it's about 10 years old and doesn't fit with modern science.
Compensation lawyer Peter Shannon was astounded to see a health department review last Friday support the European levels. The standards used in the United States are not necessarily relevant here, and just choosing the lowest health reference value can cause unwarranted concerns. For the next 3 months, Darby will leave the fight to others. He'll have surgery on Wednesday in Toowoomba, and even though it may have made him sick, he'll miss home deeply.
Despite all the question marks, you wouldn't leave this place, would you?
No, I love this place. I love Oakey.
Darby makes the point that his fight is not with the men and women in the base here behind me, but it's with the politicians and it's with the Defence officials in Canberra. Now, those same people have just sent me an email in the past 10 minutes saying they were unfortunately able to get a statement to us for our deadline for tonight's story, but hopefully we will hear from them for tomorrow. Now, someone who has been speaking with Defence officials in Canberra is Rory Ross from Shine Lawyers, and he joins us now. Rory, your firm has been representing these people here, negotiating with Defence for 2 years. How would you say it's been going?
Look, we've been negotiating on behalf of a group of residents at Oakey, and these are loyal country people. They're not the type to go ripping off to the courts wanting to litigate. Unfortunately, the negotiations have been proceeding very, very slowly. It's very disappointing, and increasingly it's looking like it's getting to the point where people are asking, what do we have to do to get some action from government here? And increasingly that's looking like it is going to be through the courts courts in order to get a fair and just outcome for these people, and possibly in the form of a class action.
Now, when it comes to a fair and just outcome, obviously, as we heard tonight, health implications can be difficult to prove, but in terms of financial and agricultural, they're a little more clear-cut, aren't they?
Well, look, the financial impacts for our clients became evident pretty much from the moment the government first announced that the water is contaminated. They said, don't drink the water, and we understand that the government spoke to many of 40% expected drop in land values. But look, the health issues, although they may be more complex as a legal issue, they are extremely important, because we just don't have confidence in the steps that the Commonwealth Government has been taking so far to come clean about what the health impacts are and what they really are.
And I guess just quickly, class action, is that next?
Well, look, the people we represent are really fed up. They face potentially devastating consequences. We've got people who can't sell their property. They can't borrow to develop their property. Their lives are in limbo. Essentially, their properties and livelihoods have been on hold for the last 2 years. They've asked us what their options are, and so we are exploring the legal options, and increasingly it's looking like that will take the form of a class action against the Commonwealth Government. We're exploring the details at the moment.
Rory, thank you very much for joining us, and Georgie, we'll have more live from Oakey tomorrow night.
Lachlan, thank you.